I think Lake Charles in 5 years is probably going to have the strongest economy in the country. I think that if people don't have a job by then, it's because they choose not to, because I want to get everybody employed, but I also want to get them trained. So that's going to be a matter of, we've been talking with Suella, ABC School, McNeese, all of them about getting people job skills, the DA's office. Been talking about getting expungements for people that have things on their records that's really keeping them from participating in society. But also asking them if you've got obligations like child support, go ahead and support these children. So what I cannot do is I can't make people do things, but all I can do is if I identify something that's keeping you from doing things, I can eliminate that, move that out the way so that's not an excuse, and then at that point free will takes over. So I'm hoping in 5 years that with the programs we're putting together, the economy that's built, the recovery efforts that we're doing, that a lot of the things that's keeping people from actively participating on the positive side of society, those barriers will be taken away, and then at that point, they have a choice whether they want to be productive or not.
The Haitian Kings! The Haitian Kings! The Haitian Kings! This the Haitian Kings Podcast!
When we started this podcast, it was clear our mission was to inform the people, to highlight individuals who embody service and significance, the ones who inspire transformative impact in their community. We've remained steadfast in that purpose from the very beginning. And in the political climate we live in today, where every voice seeks to be acknowledged, it's more important than ever to create a space where people can truly be heard. That's why today is not just another episode. It is a historic moment for the city of Lake Charles. For the first time in our city's history, the people have elected their first Black mayor. A moment that is both monumental and symbolic, representing progress, representation, and a new chapter of possibility for generations watching. Today's conversation isn't just about politics, it's about legacy, trajectory, and barrier-breaking leadership. And today, we have the honor of sitting with the man of the center of this moment, for the first Black mayor in the history of Lake Charles, Mayor Marshall Simien.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much for coming to the show. How's the intro?
Oh, it's good. It's good. I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
So basically, I was saying, once again, welcome to the Haitian King Podcast. If it was meant to be, it was eventually going to happen. We were being supposed to make this thing happen, but unfortunately, because of some unknown circumstances, it would never happen. But now, finally, we got you in this chair. So welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
We may be at the right time because when we was first supposed to get together, we were in the middle of the campaign. Now the campaig's over, so we got a lot more to talk about.
Exactly. So now you got even more stuff to even discuss with us.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, before we talk politics or history, who is Marshall Simien?
Marshall Simien's a kid from Gosport who grew up, hanging out with his friends, playing. They call it dominoes. We call it dominology. Playing basketball, hanging out. Oldest of 5 kids, just a kid in the neighborhood who just decided to pursue his dreams.
You said pursue your dreams. Clarify a bit more on that. Like, as an 18-year-old or 16 or 12 or 8-year-old, did you, I guess, walk around believing or dreaming, and one day you want to go into politics, one day you want to be a mayor, one day you want to be a president, or how did, the dream become a reality?
Yeah, it wasn't even anywhere near that. I was the first person in my family to go to college, so I wanted to go to college, and then I did that, so I got a chance to go to college, and then from there the opportunity came to go to law school, so I wound up going to law school. Then I wanted to do a career in law and got into a firm, and then politics just kind of came by accident. I was asked to do some public service for some things that I was doing, so that kind of stuck. That became my my version of doing public service, community service, you know.
So basically, in your seeking your passion of being a servant to the community led to you becoming the mayor. Is it pretty much where the dream stops, or maybe what's next for Mr. Simmons
But
on that journey?
And it actually didn't lead me to becoming mayor because I was practicing law. I represented a lot of businesses. And then when I was living in New Orleans, because when I got out of law school, I went clerk for a judge, Burnett Johnson. She wound up recently retiring as the first black chief justice of Louisiana Supreme Court. And then I I was a partner in a big firm in New Orleans, but I was originally from Lake Charles. So my father had gotten sick, so I was coming back and forth. I was coming to Lake Charles, getting him. We were going to MD Anderson and going back. And then his cancer went in remission. Then when he came back, I was about to start my run again, and my wife, who told me if I ever tried to move to Lake Charles, she would leave me. She said, if we left New Orleans right now and went to Lake Charles, what would we miss that we couldn't come back and visit? I almost fell out the bed. So I said, nothing. So she said, why are we here? So the next day I had a big old partnership meeting, and I was telling the guys, look, I'm leaving. Who wants to buy my partnership share? And they were asking, where are you going? I said, I'm moving to Lake Charles. And we had just built a house in the Mandeville area. We had a young baby. We just had another baby. And they said, wait, don't you have a new house? I said, yeah. So don't you have a baby? I said, baby's 2 weeks old. So they said, you just going to start all over? I said, yeah, I did, And when I left out the room, they were literally on the floor laughing. But I wanted to come back, be with my father, because growing up, he worked at the plants. By the time we got up in the morning, he was gone. And after work, he'd, go out with his friends, have some drinks or whatever. So when he came back, it was dark. And so I never really knew him, although I knew him and admired him. So I came back and moved back here, and I got 20 more years with him before God called him home.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So what moment or experience shaped you, shaped the leader you are today?
Third grade. I had a third grade teacher named Miss Baptiste. She had left out the room. She came back in the room. Me and this kid, we had our rulers out. We were sword fighting. And she came in, she was so upset, and she told the kid that I was sword fighting, she said, you sit down. And she told me, you go in the hallway. And when I went in the hallway, I'm thinking, I'm getting kicked out of school, And then she came in the hallway, and she just grabbed me by the shoulders, and she looked me right in my eyes. She said, you have so much potential. You have so much potential. And at the time, I'm like, third grade, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go back in the room. But then I looked at her, and a tear had welled up right in her eye right there. And it caught me, it affected me, And so, I went back in the room, and it was just quiet the whole time. But it changed what I saw about myself. I never thought I was a kid with potential. I just was cutting up. But I remember when I got sworn into the bar, when I passed the bar, I came back home. There was a teacher named Miss Sellers that stayed two houses down from me. And when we were back home, I noticed that Miss Baptiste, they were friends, was at her house. So I went to her house, and I was telling Miss Sellers, hey, I just got sworn into the bar. I said, Miss Baptiste, you are my third grade teacher. I said, you will never know how much you changed my life. She said that day in the hallway. She remembered that,
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
That was pretty cool, man.
That is amazing.
But if she would have kicked me out of school, no telling where I would have gone. If she wouldn't have even cared, she just told me to go sit back in my seat, I'd have still been a little cut up. But man, some people can look at you and they're almost peering into your soul or into their soul. When she said you have so much potential, and that tear was in her eyes, that really caught my attention.
What does it feel like when you find out you're about to be the first black mayor in Lake Charles history?
I thought it was. I felt the same way I did when President Barack Obama got elected. Not the same scope, because when President Barack Obama ran, I was telling my two sons, I said, back when I was in elementary school, if you told somebody I'm going to be president of the United States, they'd laugh at you. Oh, yeah, that's not going to be a black president of the United States. So when he ran, I remember I told everybody I never got a chance to vote for Barack Obama as president, because the first time he ran, I brought my oldest son in the voting booth with me, and he was 12 at the time. I said, man, you're about to vote for the first black president of the United States. And I said, you better tell that to your grandchildren. He said, nobody's going to ever believe me. So I pull out my phone. I said, that's why we're going to videotape it, you know? So he got to vote, pushed the little button, and when he came out, he had this smile on his face. And so when the president ran again for re-election, I brought my second son in, and he did the same thing. So I remember bringing him to the inauguration, and I wanted to witness the history, but I wanted them to see the power of their vote. And when the Chief Justice said, "Congratulations, Mr. President," and that crowd, that rise, you know, if you ever hear 2 million people cheering at the same time, that's pretty powerful. So when I was elected as mayor, I felt the same thing, not in that scope, but that this is a big deal, you know.
But did that also come, I guess, with a lot of pressure for you, or maybe did that may help you look at it different, or the fact that now I'm the first black mayor, that means now I gotta do, as they say, you gotta be 10 times as best as them to be half as appreciated, kind of like that.
The only pressure is, you're going to be under a microscope now. I mean, everything I do is going to be judged. You know, that's the biggest thing. When people judge you, you can't control what they judge. All you can do is be yourself. But the weight of the office and the responsibility, no. I mean, it's an opportunity to help people, and I think that's part of the DNA. I wouldn't be in this office if I didn't want to help people. But you do understand that everything you do is under a microscope, and people are going to love you, hate you, mimic you. They're gonna admire you. They're gonna follow you. They're gonna want to be like you, depending on what you do. So I'm very conscious of what I do and how I do it. Not it doesn't change the way I do things. It's just a different level of situational awareness.
So who was the first person you thought about or you called when you know about the result?
Oh, my dad. My dad. My dad was the 20 years I got with him was pretty transformational, because he was I got a chance to spend some quality time with him where he talked to me about life, you know. And I remember one time.
Here we go. Milo Hush.
I remember at one time I was on the city council, and I'd gotten out of office, and it wasn't a good situation, because we had a big falling out behind a bunch of horses in the neighborhood. And at that time, I said, I'm done with politics. I'm done with the community. I'm done with people. And my dad and I are working in the yard, you know. And you'd have to know him. He's just one of those people. He kind of takes you in and then deals with you. He said, so you feel like you got betrayed, huh? I said, yeah. He said, and that's a problem for you. I said, well, yeah. He said, well, let me ask you something. He said, you consider yourself educated, man. I said, yeah. He said, you know the story about Julius Caesar? I said, yeah, Julius Caesar got betrayed. He said, who betrayed him? I said, his friend Brutus. I said, how did he betray him? He said, he stabbed him in the back. I said, you see, that's right. He said, and you consider yourself a religious man? I said, yeah. He said, well, who betrayed Jesus? I said, well, Judas, man. He said, how did he betray him? With a kiss? I said, that's right. He said, you know what those two guys had in common, Brutus and Judas? I said, what? He said, the last part of their name, us. He said, you know, us that's a lot of people under your tent. He said, but you're not in a position unless you care about us. And sometimes us aren't going to do everything that you want. You're going to feel betrayed by us. But he said, but if you ever give up on us, guess who wins? And he said, maybe that's why you need to focus on not who betrayed Jesus, but Jesus, because guess what the last part of his name was? Us. And, you know, Dad would do those kind of moments. You just drop the mic and walk away, man. At that point, no problem. I'm going to serve everybody. So when here it was, those years I'd given up. I was done with politics, and now all of a sudden, the last numbers came in. I'm mayor of the city of Lake Charles. So the first thing you think about is, if I wouldn't have had that conversation with him, this moment wouldn't be happening right now.
Okay, and I'm sure somebody who's I guess you may say, who recently got within office, and I'm sure whenever you got into office, you walked in with a lot of poise and with a lot of issues you wish to get resolved right away. What would those issues be?
Well, the biggest issue is that I had seen throughout the years where the black community itself did not feel that it was being addressed, you know. They felt that they were kind of a secondary obligation. never felt that way, but I just said my biggest thing that I wanted to do was bring the community to the table, bring everybody to the table. Because another thing my dad had told me a long time ago, he said, if you're in the room and everybody's about to eat, he said, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And there was a big segment of my community that felt like they were on the menu. So I just wanted to make sure, look, I'm going to bring everybody to the table, but now that you're at the table, now you're accountable for being at the table. You have to bring something to the table. So that was the biggest thing that I wanted to do, and that's pretty much the focus of what I've been doing the whole time I've been in public service.
And speaking of community, and I'm sure you're well aware of when it comes to Lake Charles, Louisiana, there's this ideology that Lake Charles is split into two halves, North Lake Charles and South Lake Charles.
Yeah.
So what are your ideas that you currently have in mind to where you can just actually stop that division and bring Lake Charles into one instead of a city divided into two?
Well, you just hit the theme of my campaign, One Lake Charles. That was the whole idea, bringing in One Lake Charles. But in order to do that, you can't force people to come together. All you can do is build the bridges to let them be able to get to each other. So I'm going to build the bridges, but I'm also, the biggest thing is people got to understand why they need to cross the bridge in the first place. So there's people out there that don't realize that there's people that they need to interact with, meet, have talent, have solutions to their issues, but they haven't met with them. I think the biggest example of that was they had built there was a Walmart in Moss Bluff that decided to move to the northern part of Lake Charles. And you had all the naysayers, people gonna get raped, robbed, and killed. Never happened. It wound up being one of the most successful Walmarts in the entire area. But I was walking through one day and I saw a white lady and a black lady. They were they were talking about something on the shelf, and they said, "No, don't buy that one. That's overpriced, but you get the same thing here." And I thought that was pretty cool that they're talking, So I went and did my shopping. When I came back, those two ladies were still there, just talking and interacting. And I said, if this Walmart hadn't come into the North Lake Charles area, these two ladies would have never met each other. So you start realizing that, if there's a bridge that brought them together and they crossed that bridge because they knew, look, we have the same thing in common about what we're shopping, getting quality items and things like that. So the same thing applies across everything, whether it's how you raise your children, whether you could take vacations, what do you do with your money, finances. There's all kind of bridges that need to be built, but people just need to understand that I need to cross that bridge, and the only reason why you're going to cross a bridge is because there's something on the other side that's going to benefit you just as much as the other person that's on the other side.
So let me ask you this though, but when you're looking at south of Lake Charles and compared to north of Lake Charles, it's a big difference.
Big difference.
So how would you change that, like bringing more businesses to the north side of Lake Charles? As a mayor, how would you help with that?
Well, I'm already talking to a lot of businesses about coming into the northern part of Lake Charles, but I'm also talking to the community about, the communities need to support their businesses, but you also need to protect them, If you have a lot of theft going on in your businesses, and the businesses aren't going to stay. And so if people know that people out there that's taking things from their communities, they need to step up. When I was campaigning, they had closed down two Krogers, one on 12th Street, one on Highway 14, but they built a new one over on Nelson Road. And a lot of people during the campaign were saying, look, that's Kroger's a racist store and everything else. So I wound up calling Houston to Kroger and said, look, I got a question for y'all. You closed two stores and built a new one, but you closed the two that were in predominantly black communities. And they said, Mr. Marshall, those two stores had more stuff going out the back door than the front door. We just can't do business. It had nothing to do with race. It's really about economics. So I was telling the people, I said, you had people in these stores that were taking stuff, and you knew who they were. And I know you didn't want to rat them out or you thought it was justified, but guess what? They stole your store too. So we have to get people to come and invest in our communities, but we have to support those stores, go to those stores, and we have to protect them. There's a chicken poultry on Frugier Street, and the gentleman out there, he has a good. I have a good friend of mine, Thomas Synagogue, who goes out there and they'll cook. He'll just have free meals out there. He hires a lot of people from the community, and that business is protected. Now the community knows that this is a vital part of our community. We're going to support this store. That's where everybody goes get their meat. But if anything happens to that store, they're going to protect it. I guarantee you, if somebody said there was any type of smoke coming from that store, the community will go out there and form a fire brigade. So the the community, the black community, spends just as much money or more money as anybody else, and that dollar, the black dollar, is very coveted. So we just need to make sure that our dollar is appreciated, you know. And the best way to appreciate it is say, look, I'm tired of you not having a store in our community. You need to be here. And I'm going to be out there telling them, look, you need to come in this community. These are the people that live here. This is the income that they have, and they spend a lot of money. And I think that way you're going to, but also if they have stores in the community that are not everywhere else, that's going to bring people into the community too. There's a little breakfast place called Biscuits and Jams. You ever go to the place, man? It looks it's just a little store, but it's a place that everybody comes to eat. It's not about being in the north part of Lake Charles, South Lake Charles, black or white. They just go in there because the food is delicious, the fellowship is good, that whole vibe is just incredible. So that's the bridge that's a bridge that's built, and people understand why to cross it. So I keep going back to bridges because that's really what needs to be done. You know, the North Lake Charles community has needs, has issues that it needs to address with, and now they have a voice because I'm going to talk about those issues. You saw that when we were dealing with the sports complex. A lot of people from Gosport spoke up about what their hopes and aspirations were in that community. A lot of people right next door in the downtown community got to hear that and realize, okay, I understand now, you know? So it all starts with that. Now, is there an easy fix? No, because you're dealing with systemic issues, you know, that have been generational. So some people, you got to change the mindset. You know, even in our own community, you got people that say, why do you, when I moved, I stay in North Lake Charles. As a matter of fact, you can't stay any further north in Lake Charles than where I live. I mean, when I moved back, people say, why are you living in North Lake Charles? I said, because I feel safe here. I said, I know the people. I mean, the people here are real. What I'm seeing is what I'm going to get. And that's what I want. That's what I wanted for me and for my family. And it's been wonderful.
But, you know, another big thing, too, is security. So, you know, they've been having a lot of shooting and stuff like this in Lake Charles. How, under your leadership, Lake Charles can feel about safety?
Well, the leadership, you got to identify where and how the shooting and everything is going on. There's a lot of people carrying weapons everywhere. A lot of the shootings we were seeing were coming out of more the nightclubs, and not necessarily in the nightclubs, but in the parking lots. You know, you go into a bar, most times they'll have security in the bar, but the parking lot, you have people accumulating in the parking lot. They're not even in the bar or in the club. They're just kind of riding around, and then you mix that and people out there unsupervised. The next thing you know, got drinks going on, you got petty issues going on, and people are armed, and then it starts having shootings. So our city police, the sheriff's office, state police started a task force where we started pretty much identifying what was going on, because you had a place, it was called Caddy Shack, that it had a lot of issues. They wound up closing that down. Then the people that was causing problems over there started migrating to another place, and they started issues. Then they wound up migrating to the lakefront. So it really was a group that was out there doing different things. You know, you got your isolated incidents where you got, you know, people just have beefs with each other. But most of your core trouble, we've been trying to identify that and try to get it out the way.
But as the current mayor of Lake Charles right now, and speaking of safety and security, and also you also kind of touched up on working with the police, the state police, the sheriff, and the city police. So as the city mayor right now, what kind of program do you guys currently have set up to where you can help the police department work with the community to prevent those kind of things from happening?
Well, we're retooling our Parks and Recreation department, you know. Before I got in office, to throw something inside a recreation center, you had to rent it and provide security and do a whole bunch of things. And it did make sense to me, because these are city recreation, parks and recreation facilities. We own those. The taxpayers pay for them. So why am I charging people to go into their own recreation facilities? If somebody wanted to throw a dance, like that was a dance that somebody on university had rented an Airbnb and threw a party, and then there was a shooting, and a 16-year-old didn't make it home that day. And that kept me up all night, because I was like, why can't we have those kind of places available in a recreation center? you come into my recreation center, what we're going to do is put not the metal detectors because you don't want to be so super secured, but like when you go into the event center, there's a detector that you walk through. It will pick up if there's a weapon involved. You got clear bag policies. You got to come in with clear bags, and put the kids in a safe environment and let them burn off that energy. And then if anybody starts accumulating in the parking lot, they're at my city facility. I can send the city police to clear that parking lot out and get that under control pretty quickly. But there's a lot of energy. Everybody comes with energy. The younger crowd has just that much more energy. And if you don't focus that energy on something positive, the streets are waiting for them. So what I'm going to do with the Parks and Recreation is try to find safe places to put the kids, let them burn out that energy so the streets can't get to them, and then identify the influences who may be causing some issues. But also there's some influences who've changed their lives around who have a lot of people's attention. As a young lady, she talks to a lot of young girls and they really listen to her. And I want to identify those people and ask them if they would use those talents to try to put people on the right path now,
So where do you see Lake Charles in 5 years under your leadership?
I think Lake Charles in 5 years is probably going to have the strongest economy in the country. I think that if people don't have a job by then, it's because they choose not to, because I want to get everybody employed, but I also want to get them trained. So that's going to be a matter of, we've been talking with Suella, ABC School, McNeese, all of them about getting people job skills, the DA's office. Been talking about getting expungements for people that have things on their records that's really keeping them from participating in society, but also asking them if you've got obligations like child support, go ahead and support these children. So what I cannot do is I can't make people do things, but all I can do is if I identify something that's keeping you from doing things, I can eliminate that, move that out the way so that's not an excuse. And then at that point, free will takes over. So I'm hoping in 5 years that with the programs we're putting together, the economy that's built, the recovery efforts that we're doing, that a lot of the things that's keeping people from actively participating on the positive side of society, those barriers will be taken away. And then at that point, they have a choice whether they want to be productive or not.
So what role do young people play in the future of Lake Charles?
I think they're the ones that need to be ready because the baton is coming to them. This life is a relay. I'm running this leg with this administration to really prepare the next generation and put them in a good spot when I pass the baton. So I've met with a lot of young people who I've said, look, you've got talent. Everybody's got talent, but I'll ask them to do something. You want to serve in a committee. You want to do some things. You want to get active with youth involvement, leadership activities, and public service, and see if it sticks with them. Some people that's not meant for them, but some people do very, very well at public service if they ever got the chance to do that. So I want to give them those opportunities and see what happens. I think the cream is going to rise to the top, and I think it's going to be a blessing to our community going forward.
So what would you say what are the three most urgent issues facing Lake Charles right now?
Urgent issues going to be finding ways where people can interact constructively. I love social media, but I've seen the good and the bad of social media. It's a good outlet, but at the same time, there's people out there that really they're predators on people, on their lives and what their thoughts are. I've seen people's lives get destroyed on social media. I see good people who took a break because it got too much for them. So I like to see people get more in a issue where they interact. Like we did a swimming pool at Gosport. When you get in that swimming pool, you're not going to be able to bring a phone. You're really going to look people eye to eye, interact with them. That's a whole different conversation when you have to look somebody eye to eye and talk to them versus being a keyboard hero. So that's one thing. Another thing is just to let people know that there's a place for them. It's amazing how many people you talk to, they have a negative look at what the city is, what their lives are, and they have to realize, look, man, the cup is half full, not half empty. But that's just a matter of them having the opportunity to see that the switch is right. So that's going to be through mentoring, through just being an example, through the most basic thing is how do you help it where families where you can take some of the stress off the families so they can actually be families again, whether it's financial stresses, interaction stresses, just resources, you know. I know I'm talking general, but everything drills down from those basics, you know. And the third thing is going to be financial security and uplifting to be able to move up. So part of it is going to be getting people in a situation where they can get jobs that they want, but also put them in a situation where they can advance in those jobs. You don't want anybody hitting glass ceilings, because that's about the most frustrating thing when you know you're doing something really well and you're not being rewarded for it. So, and on my standpoint, that starts with the city workers, you know. When I came into office, our city workers are severely underpaid. But you look at the work that they do, things that people take for granted every day. You got clear water running, your trash is picked up. If there's a problem out there, you call the mayor's action line, it's taken care of. There's people out there that they have families, they have mortgages, kids, and they're trying to make it just like everybody else. So we need to give them true living wages. So part of what I'm trying to do is work on the financial side to say, how do we get the people paid, enhance the services, and reward everybody? Because if they're the biggest thing you give people is your time. You know, you don't work for anybody; you just give them your time. So that should be something that's rewarded.
Let me ask you perhaps like a two-part question. What would be the hardest part about being a mayor, or perhaps let's just say the second part would be, what would be the hardest thing about being a mayor people would not think it's that hard?
People think that the hardest thing about being mayor is the noise that comes at you, you know, and that's in any position. There's people that come at you. Some people, I remember when I got into politics, somebody said, well, Marshall, you know, in politics, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I said, well, I come out of the private sector. In the private sector, the squeaky wheel gets changed. Nobody has time for that. But in politics, you get people that's coming at you and they speak loudly and you think they have a lot of influence, but they may not have the will of the people with them. They just have their own agenda that they're trying to push. So you really have to be able to discern what is just an agenda that's being pushed versus what's best for the people, the good of the people. So I tell people one time, because my undergraduate degree was in government, and I learned that politicians make decisions based on the next election. Statesmen make decisions based on the next generation. But you can't have all one or all the other. It has to be a balance, you know. So you have to make decisions that meet the immediate needs of people. Otherwise, you're not going to get reelected. But at the same time, you got to do things that's going to, when you hand that baton off, you put the next generation in a better position. So that's always the toughest part, because some people don't discern that. You know, you look at what do you let into your community? It may look good today, but is it a long-term thing for the community? Do you let something come into a community because it looks good and shiny, but it's going to gentrify and run everybody out the community where they can't afford to live there, and now they're stressed out. So you really have to balance that. Even when you're building the city, you want to bring things in that complement each other and not cannibalize each other. So those are the things those are the hardest things, just to be able to discern, because you really are driving the ship, and you can drive the ship off the cliff, or you can drive it to where it needs to go.
Let me ask you this, because usually people will be like, it's easy, like, oh yeah, when the mayor should do this, the mayor should do that, because you're the outside looking in. So you always can have your own opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right? But since before you become a mayor, so your expectation was, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But then now that you become a mayor, do you feel like it's the same thing, or what's the switch?
It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same, but a little different, because a lot of people focus on dropping this domino. But if you drop dominoes, there's a reaction to all the rest of the dominoes. So you can't just focus on dropping the first domino. You got to figure out, where's that last domino going to drop, and what is that going to do? And once you think about it that way, it makes it a whole lot easier to make decisions. Because I can do something right here, but that's going to affect this, and this. And if it's going to affect this, and that's a positive thing, that's a good decision. But sometimes they have unexpected outcomes because you never thought about where the last domino is going to drop. The Kroger situation. Look, I know my friend is in there. He's stealing stuff. He's selling things that I can get a discount on. That's fine. But next thing you know, the Kroger's gone. You don't have those things anymore. So that's just on that side. But on the side of politics, I want to put a highway through this area because I want to get people from this point to this point. But I'm gonna have to disrupt this entire community, split it up, and devastate generations of connections. Then that's the last domino you got to look at. So that you have to weigh that in.
Hey, you still watching, right? That means you're enjoying it. So follow, like, share, subscribe.
All right, let's get back to the show.
As you're well aware of, we live in Lakeshore, Louisiana, which is in the South, and we deal with a lot of natural disasters like hurricanes and lately even blizzards. So,
You're right about that.
so even blizzards. So, what do you think the city got ready as an infrastructure? Do you think we are ready to deal with these things? Like as we've seen, what in 2021, I believe.
2020.
2020,
yeah.
what 2 hurricanes back to back kind of did to Lake Charles. Do you think we get the infrastructure that's ready to deal with anything like that in the near future?
No, we're getting there. You can't. It's not a matter of if we're going to get, but when. Another hurricane, another storm, another freeze. We're not quite the resilient community that's gonna survive those kind of things and thrive in them. You look at what happened in 2020. We're at 2025, and you're just starting to feel some sort of recovery. That's 5 years. That's a long time. There's a lot of people that we lost that life went on for them. They never came back. But I can't control the weather. Maybe I can control the recovery. So we're putting these, what we call resiliency hubs in different areas strategically, where right off of I-10 and 210, where if a disaster comes in, most of the things you have to stage is people don't have power. So you're going to need generators. You want to secure their homes, you're going to need tarp. You're going to need some place to prepare food. You're going to need places for people to just come get potable water, take a shower, even something simple like charge your cell phone. So we put those kind of areas in so that when it is time to recover, we can start staging the recovery. Places where people can come in. We found during LAR that people coming in from working in their houses, they're so stressed out that we wound up having a telehealth where they just have stress management just to be able to decompress during that day. And then other people just didn't know how to navigate through the insurance claims or the FEMA requirements and things like that. So we're putting centers together where we're going to have all those resources in place to help people start navigating so they can focus on recovery instead of just surviving. And hopefully we can make it where the most vulnerable populations, they don't have to be displaced and then you never see them again because, some people say, well, it's all right, they didn't come back. But, if you look at your businesses, most of these people worked in these businesses and you can't work a business if you don't have any workers. So, it's not just a matter of taking care of the people that make a lot of money. It's taking care of the most vulnerable population. You're going to have people that are going to come back that they have special needs. You got to be able to address those. The government needs to function. Law enforcement has to protect people. So what we're doing now is doing that. On the housing side, we're trying to build more resilient housing. But what you've got now, especially on the north side of Lake Charles, you've got older houses that have been through a number of storms now. They're still functioning. People are still in them. But they're the most vulnerable when there's another hurricane or whatever. And you can't keep putting new wine in those old wineskins. So we're starting to work at different housing options that just, as a matter of fact, they're doing a housing study now to start addressing how do we get housing stronger? How do we replenish our older housing stock and get people in better housing so that they can withstand these kind of storms and things like that? Rental properties, everything else. So we're a better community because we've come through this storm, but we're not quite resilient enough yet where we're going to be able to just have a very structured recovery. Once we have a very structured recovery, I think that's gonna help everybody because we lost some pretty good people from the last storm because we just didn't have the resources or the preparation to get them back on their feet to bring them back home.
I remember when the hurricane, because FEMA really didn't really help like we're supposed to. And then I think 2 years later, or 2 to 3 years later, and then there's a phone number that keep texting me and say, hey, do the FEMA thing because I didn't know at the time. I thought it was some fake,
Right.
people trying to steal your money. But found out that it was like because the only reason FEMA was trying to give people money then is because they didn't do what they were supposed to do in the hurricane. But I feel like it's that a leadership problem because you had to go. People needed that help at the time,
They
not
need
3
that help.
years later. So how would you feel like you, as the new leadership right now, would not let a situation like this happen?
What happened after Laura was a lot of people had to try to navigate a very complicated process. There's a lot of bureaucracy that was involved with FEMA, but that was But I want to make sure that the city has resources so that if somebody's gone through a storm, that number, I don't know what's a real number versus what's a fake number. Well, now through the city's apparatus, we can tell you, look, contact these people. This is going to help your recovery. You need food assistance. Do this. You need just a clearinghouse, and you're starting to see that the city has a website and a Facebook page that is starting to put out a lot of information, a lot of content, what's going on, where you should go, and if people come to that area, they'll find information that's been vetted, but also the resources that they need to help them navigate through different things. Because, when you go through a storm and a tree is in your house, it's not just a matter of getting the tree out the house, but everything that's been damaged in there. How do I make a claim for all this? How do I even figure out how to submit a claim? I can't say, well, I've got a microphone. No, I need to get the serial number, the make, model, and everything else. And some people, that's just a lot for them to navigate. So I want to put resources in place that can help people get to the right places and get the right information. Because if you can get the right information in a timely manner, that's going to help speed up the process. And once that process goes through, then you can start getting results.
Another thing is like I feel like, going to different cities, they got so many places to go, activities and stuff like this to do. But I think Lake Charles I've been here 15 years, is come from a long way. Mm-hmm. But what you think under your leadership that you can bring to Lake Charles and, for kids and more activities and stuff, like, do you have any plan on anything are you working on that will help with that?
Yeah, well, we did the Gosport pool. That Gosport pool, when I was a kid, they had a pool there. That was the gathering place. Now it was the center of the community. Everybody would come there. That's where everybody would hang out. We just did the sports complex that's going to be going downtown. That thing is 8 basketball courts that convert to volleyball courts. It's going to be certified for national tournaments for AAU volleyball, dance competition. But during the times we don't have those competitions, it's going to be a big old giant community center. So I like to have like rec ball in there, leagues where the whatever's generated from that, kids can come in and play. They don't have to pay any fees, buy uniforms, because what you don't want are kids being left out because economically they can't afford to do those things. So I want to get the kids in that. One of the other things that happened was we had a teen camp this summer. And I was sitting there talking with the teens, and I said, look, okay, I'm your mayor, you're my constituent. I don't know what you want. They're like, well, we didn't get a chance to vote for you. I said, it doesn't matter. What I do affects everybody. So I said, what do you want? And to a T, and it surprised me, they all said, we want a skating rink. Of all things, a skating rink.
A lot of people have been talking about that in Lake Charles. Yeah. A lot of people have been talking about the last one that they had that closed, and a lot of people have been missing it since it's been closed.
So the part of what we're trying to do with that sports complex, that's a big old giant sports complex. Some of those places have like an elevated walking track. Well, instead of a walking track, we actually want to put an elevated skating rink that can double as a walking track, so that if you have people downstairs playing basketball, in the lounge gaming, that you can be up there skating, exercising, getting off the phone, interacting, and having a good time. You can throw parties up there. The laser light shows at night, that place will be lit up. So I think if you start putting those things together and get all the kids together and let them congregate and socialize in those areas, I think they're going to take ownership of it. Because the biggest thing I want to do too, when you're talking about what to do with the next generation, I want them to run it. I want them to work there. I want them to take care of it, because I think if somebody goes there and they're not acting right, I think the peer-to-peer talk is going to help a whole lot more than sending a grown-up in there to say, I'm going to kick you out or whatever else. So I think it's going to be a work in progress because, as with anything, you got to work through all the kinks. But that's a big idea, is to get the kids in safe areas where they can burn that energy, but let them be responsible for their own outcomes too. And I think that's going to help them mature a lot better.
One thing that there has been a lot of speculation about is the I-10 bridge. Let's just say, let's get it from the horse's mouth. What's the update on that, on the I-10 bridge?
Well, the I-10 bridge has started. That's gonna. It's supposed to be a 7-year project. Where the existing bridge is now, they're going to build a bridge right to the north of it, between the railroad track and the river. So they're going to build a bridge there. The interstate, all that area where Steamboat Bills and all that is, all that's going to become new interstate until Ryan Street. Then once they build that and open it up, then they're going to tear down the old bridge and take out that interstate area. So that's already started. They're anticipating that it's going to be finished by about 2032. 2031. But they've already started on the Westlake side. They're moving all those pipe racks. On our side, they're starting to move the sewer and everything else. So that's going to be a big project. That's a $2 billion project, and that's not just the bridge and that part of I-10. That's starting from one part of 210 to the other part of 210.
But the problem with those projects, usually they got so much bureaucracy in it. To say 7 years, I feel like you want to add another 7 to that, because I feel like even though when you're going to Houston, they've been working on this forever.
Yeah.
So 7 years, I would love to see it.
Well, we're meeting pretty regularly on the updates and things, and I feel pretty confident about the timeline that they have on it. They've got certain deliverable dates that they're going to meet, and the people that's constructing it, this isn't just your regular person building a bridge. These people, it's 2 Spanish companies that are financing this thing. That's why they have a toll on it. They build bridges all around the world.
So there's going to be a toll on it?
It's going to be a toll on it.
Is it going to be for an extended period of time, or just for like forever?
They say it's a 50-year period. They say a 50-year period. For the locals, the toll is going to be 25 cents. But I'm thinking that we're trying to work and see if there's a way to get out of the toll. Right now, those companies are coming in and financing it, not the government, so they're getting paid. But there's a buyout, but you got to make sure it's under the right circumstances.
Because I'm sure you've heard about the story of the turnpike in Florida. I don't know if you're familiar with that story, which is kind of the same way. But the thing is, they built it like a whole new interstate, which is kind of opposite to the I-10 they have over there, or I-95 they have over there. And when they built it, it was supposed to be a toll for 10 years and then to pay it off and then be done. And then the turnpike is still on the toll till this day. I'm guessing, is it going to be one of those same kind of situation, or is it going to be just like, are they going to stick to their word through it, like after 5 years, once they make their money, they're gone for good?
No, if you look, the best example, I've never seen a toll on a main interstate corridor, so that's the one thing that's different. But the clearest example of a toll going through is if you go to Houston, Beltway 8. Beltway 8 was built, it was a toll, and after a while, that was supposed to fall off. But just when it falls off, they say, "Oh, well, we got maintenance." Then they're expanding and everything else. So
it never goes away.
I would never count on saying that the toll's never going to go away, but because it's a moneymaker for them. But it's just a matter of what they're going to do with the money. Some of the money is supposed to be able to come back for infrastructure projects. Some of the money is going to be for maintenance and everything else. So 50 years, I don't think I'm gonna be here by that time. So. That'll be somebody, like I said, we're going to hand the baton off. Somebody else can figure out what to do with that toll.
But what about the workers, the people that work across the bridge? Like every day you have to pay toll to go to your job?
Yeah, and I think the way they set it up, the tolls, if you're a local people, you're going to have your own tag. It's going to cost about 25 cents each way. Now, because I have my own business, if I was an employer, I'd put that as part of the work package, I'll pay your tolls because I want you to get to work. I don't want that to be a problem. Otherwise, they're going to say, well, if I got to pay a toll to get to you, you need to pay me more anyway. So,
yeah, that's true. That works. But we were talking about earlier businesses and stuff like this. How do you plan to help small businesses and entrepreneurs?
Well, we had a seminar just last week on doing business with the city because we want a lot of people to come in and start applying to do business with the city. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and I think there's a lot of businesses that need to have an opportunity to compete, because what normally you see is that you see the same people getting work over and over, and that doesn't necessarily translate into value for the taxpayer. So I think by opening it up and saying other people come in and get some of this work, I think that's going to benefit all of us. Competition is always good. But we're also walking them through because people need to understand that when you come to do business with the city, there's certain things that requirements that you have. You know, whether it's insurance, you have to be registered with the purchasing department and everything else. So we're walking them all through those processes and seeing what they do. Now, I've had clients in my law practice that want to do business with the city, and some of them did joint ventures and things. So there's a lot of ways to get it done. We're just making sure that people understand what you need to do to get in that pipeline.
Okay. As a man with so much responsibilities, like as a mayor, which I'm sure you have a lot of weight on your shoulders. But whenever you're having those bad days, those days I guess you may say when those weight feel like they're crushing you. So what inspires you to keep going?
I think about that little child. That little child that the mother said was sick every day because he was living in a house with black mold.
Can you tell me that story before we started shooting?
Oh.
Where is it right there?
When I was out, running for mayor wasn't on my radar screen. I had served on the city council. I'm pretty much was winding down, but my city councilwoman at the time, Miss Mayor Marshall, she passed away while in office, and I got selected by the city council to finish to just stay in her place until they had another election, so the community could finish grieving, get a new council person. But when I got in the council seat, there was a lady gave me a call. She lived in the St. Mary Drive housing projects, and she asked me, said, "Ms. Simien, you need to come to my house right now." So I went to her house, and she had a little baby, little child about this tall, walking around just in diapers. And she said, "This child has headaches every day." And I said, "Well, you need to take him to the doctor." She said, "I've taken him to the doctor. They can't help him." I said, "Well, then you need to take him to Houston or somewhere, because if he's having headaches, there's a reason." She said, "Why don't you come into my house?" So I went into her house. When I walked in, on the kitchen wall, the whole wall was full of black mold. And I told the lady, I said, "Wait, you and your child got to get out of here. You're dying. This is a toxic environment. You have to get out of here." And that was in a public housing project. So I contacted the housing authority. I said, what the heck's going on? They said, "Marshall, it's 60 units in here. They were all damaged by the hurricane. But we don't have a place to put the people. If we put them out, they're going to be homeless." I said, "But you guys had just finished renovating a set of housing projects on Prater Street. You had trailer homes at them. What happened to those?" And they said, "Oh, shucks." They said, "That's right. We have those in storage." And so we wound up getting all these trailers and got the people out of there. Then the next issue became, you can't put a trailer park in Lake Charles. So I was talking to the previous administration. I said, "Wait, I mean, these people, they're displaced. You got to find a place for them." So we can't put a trailer park in Lake Charles, so they moved them out to the Gillis area. And it really bothered me, It bothered me to the point where I said, "You know what, I'm not going to complain because I'm not a complainer. I'm just going to do something about it." So that's what caused me to run for mayor in the first place, because of that little child. So anytime I'm having a bad day, you start realizing it's not about me. I think back to that little child having those headaches, and it drives me, because you never know, man. That little child may have the cure for cancer somewhere in his head, and if we don't do what we need to do to protect him and help him thrive and harness his talents, then we're going to miss our blessing.
So what you want your children or the next generation watching learn about your journey?
I want them to understand that it never was about me, being mayor, because ego, power, or anything else. It really was about helping the community. I mean, the biggest accolade you get from this job is being able to help people, and not helping people where they come back and say, "Thank you for helping me." Just being able to help people. I had we did this Light Up the Lake ceremony Saturday, and there was a concert at the amphitheater. And when I came down, there was a lady who was sitting in a wheelchair, and she called me over. She was very upset, and she said, "Y'all doing all this, but you don't make it accessible for people that have special needs." I said, "What do you mean, ma'am?" She said, "Well, look, they put trucks and equipment on where the handicap parking is. I had to come all the way across in the grass and everything else, and they said, you weren't thinking about me." And I just told her, I said, "You know what? I take full responsibility for that." I said, "And that's not going to happen again." I said, now there's a place over here that we can park you, but I'm gonna make sure that this happens again. I said, I'll be back next year, and I hope that we can have a different conversation about it. She said, yeah. But then that wasn't enough. I said, but look, let me ask you, are you all right? Because at the end of the day, if she made it out there and did all this, I'm responsible for her now. We did this. You couldn't get to this place. Are you all right? And she really appreciated that. And the family was just like, it's just like nobody would have thought about doing that. But that's the heart you have to have for public service. You know, you can talk about public service. All that noise will make you think it's really about you, but it really is about the people that you serve. And if you can't serve them, you shouldn't be in public service.
Hearing your story, you kind of said you wanted to just be a public servant, and which kind of led to politics, and then which led with you being a what you call it I don't know a city council a council city person, and then from there you encounter a lady which was dealing with mold, and then that it fires you to run for mayor, and then now you become a mayor. But when it's all said and done, what do you want people to remember you for? What kind of mayor do you want people to remember you for?
What's your legacy?
I want people to say he was a good mayor. You look at my hero, favorite person is President Barack Obama. He served 2 terms as president of the United States. He did something that everybody that tried to do it never could get done, was get people affordable health care. He never embarrassed the office. He never embarrassed himself. And he was always connected to the people. And that's all I want people to say is that, look, he was a good mayor. The reasons why, it all depends on what their needs were and what was addressed. I just want him to say he was a good mayor. I don't want him to say that he was horrible or he embarrassed himself or he was a crook or he was shady or anything like that. I just want him to say he did the right things for the right reasons, and then I can live with that legacy.
So what message would you give a black boy who doesn't believe that can become anything in life? Watching what message?
I'll tell him, do not accept any negative report. And I'll refer him to go back and look in the Bible at the book of Joshua, because the people right there, the land there had been promised was the land of milk and honey. And he sent people in to look at the land, and they came back with negative reports. Oh, you can't go in there. You can't. It's just full of giants, and they're going to kill you and everything else. And he refused to accept those negative reports, and he went in and they conquered everything they saw. So I would tell that little child, no matter what you see, no matter what happens, don't accept any negative reports. But the biggest thing that they're going to get is that people may judge them based on the color of their skin. And I just tell them all, at the end of the day, God created one race, a human race. I said, but he has this sense of humor, so he gave us this Neapolitan flavor, you know? And if you eat Neapolitan ice cream, you got to dance around from flavor to flavor. Otherwise, your taste buds are going to be disappointed. So the fact that my skin is a different color from someone else, it's not because of something I chose to do or somebody else did. It's because that was the blessing that was put on me. It's never going to be a curse.
I like that.
That's going to be my last question for me. Because one thing you kind of said earlier, which was one of the hardest things of being a mayor, is dealing with the noises coming from the outside. People speculating, taking things out of context, and then just making out of context and making whatever they want out of it. So let's just say right now, you got the camera pointing at you right now, and then you had to pretty much reintroduce yourself to people that's not too familiar with you. Mm-hmm. You had to pretty much let people know who you really are, like friends and even enemies. What would you have to say to them to tell them what kind of guy Marshall Simien really is?
I'm a very focused person. Like, for instance, when I ran for mayor, I knew exactly why I was running, what I wanted to do, and how I was going to get there. That helps you see stay focused on the goal, but it also helps you figure out what is a distraction. You know, because when the noise comes at you, people make you think that other things are more important than what your goal was, and once you get off the path, you're in the wilderness. It's hard to find your way back. I always knew that I wanted to run for mayor, and I wanted to run a grassroots campaign. And in order to run a grassroots campaign, everything I talked about, every decision I made, everything I focused on had to ultimately I had to ultimately be accountable to tell people how it affect where they lay their head, where they raised their children, where they kept protected their families. If I didn't focus on those three things, I totally missed the point. So when all the noise was coming in and people saying, look, you need to go talk to this person, that person who had these agendas, I said, well, that's not really touching where people lay in their head, where they're raising their children or creating their memories. That became a distraction. And it was easier to deal with that from that standpoint. So at the end of the day, through training, I'm a lawyer by profession, so I'm professionally trained to focus on issues and address issues. But even in politics, you have to have that focus. If you lose your focus for a moment, nobody really realizes how hard it is to get back on that path. And once you compromise, you're done. You are done.
So, I mean, thank you so much, because to me, like, it means a lot. I had the chance to have the mayor coming on the show, speaking to the people and telling what is going on. And I know a lot of people will be watching, because sometimes you don't know what's going on in the city. Usually, like, every day you get up, go to work and come home. Usually people doesn't know what really going on. So that's what the main goal of this show is, just bringing people in the community that can come in and, like somebody like you or the sheriff, and tell the people, hey, this is what we got going on. And, if this is happening and this is what we're working on, so people can know. Because I think, like, from everything you said, I really like the sport complex.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really going to be a good thing, because I got my kids that like to play.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be nice, and like where you can actually bring your kids and having, like, they can interact with other kids. And then as long as it's safe, because every parents, we only care about safety. You want to have your kids go somewhere where you feel safe.
And it's important because, like, you went to your child's
my daddy's dad donuts.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but something like that. Yeah, which is basically like a seminar on how to be a dad, which is what's very, very, very important. Honestly, they were touching on some important points where you probably as a parent never thought about. But when they pointed it out, you were like, "Oh my God, that's why I do that. That's important."
And it literally does take a village. It really takes a village. So I got involved. I mean, I was always concerned about my kids because growing up, I had them all when they first started going out. I had them do the 360 on their phone, so their mother and I always knew where they were, and if that was ever off, they got grounded. We had a rule in our house that if me or your mother text you, you got 5 minutes to text us back, otherwise you're grounded, because we just wanted to know where they were and make sure that they were safe, not just for their standpoint, but for us. But look, my oldest son is 30, my middle son is 26, my daughter is 19. To this day, if I text them, they're going to text me back in 5 minutes.
You instill it in them. I mean, that's why sometimes, like, I got this, my son is, he always, like, debating with you. Like, he never, like, you tell him something, he want to know why. And I like that, because kids, like, kids want to be, you assure them, but sometimes they don't know what you're doing it for. And I think as parent, communication is really good, talking to your kids, and they understand. Sometimes, like, where I'm from, you don't talk back to your parents. So even though you had a question, what they say is the Bible, you just go with it. But it's always, like, good communicate with your kids, like, understand, hey, this is why I'm telling you to do this. And then, like, even though sometimes, it's not all the time that I have to explain to you, but sometimes I just say, hey, it is what it is. But I think, like, kids these days with social media, some parents just give them the phone and just let social media raise them.
Social media raise them. They'll chat GPT will tell them stuff.
Yeah.
But the best question is always going to be why, because the kids just don't have the life experiences to put everything together like you did. So you really have to walk them through. This is why, you're talking to them about the ultimate domino, but all they see is the first domino. You got to walk them through and say, look, if you don't do this, then this is what's going to happen. Then they understand it. So why is never a bad question, Now, sassy why,
because you're gonna get everyone because I said so.
Why? Well, because you go into your room, otherwise you're gonna have some pain.
Yeah, like I said, so it's funny that because last night my son was talking to me, right? It's like, he's trying to go to sleep late. I mean, you go to sleep at 8:30. It's like, I feel like I want to vomit and stuff like that. He said, why I cannot sleep a little late? I said, the thing is, you don't see what I see. You can see other kids like, oh yeah, why other kids stay at 10, 11? I said, but the thing is, here, I'm giving you a structure.
Yeah.
Something, I didn't have, and I'm giving it to you right now because the reason I'm doing it, I know what it takes to be successful. You don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, in the long run, right, you're going to have like an advantage from different kids.
Yeah.
And you're going to realize, oh, I see where daddy was right.
Yeah.
Then, you're going to have the same conversation right now with your kids when you tell them they got to sleep at 8:30. And they started smiling because he see, like, I got a point. Like, I say by the time when you're going to realize when you grow up that your life better, then you're going to tell your kids the same thing. Then he's going to come back and telling you why he can go to sleep more than late. And you're going to explain to him just like I'm explaining to you right now.
Just for Thanksgiving, my daughter wanted to come home from College Station. And I told her, I said, well, why don't you wait till tomorrow? She wanted to come, like, Janine, I said, why don't you wait till tomorrow? I said, look, you're going to come through Houston. It's going to be rush hour. I said, but there's some bad storms coming in. But it's sunny over here in College Station. I said, won't wait till tomorrow. Now, she was upset when she got off the phone, but we looked at the 6 o'clock news. Tornadoes had touched down in Houston. So I videoed that on the phone and sent her the text. Sent it to her in a text. She called me back. She said, my goodness, Dad. I said, yeah. I said, sometimes I just might know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Tell the king around here. When I say something, trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think it's valuable because usually, like, they think at their age, they think they know everything.
Yeah.
And then sometimes
And we did too, you know?
Yeah. I was the same way. So that's why I feel like I raised them the same way because I feel like sometimes I couldn't express myself.
Yeah.
So now I give them the,
That was frustrating too.
Yes. So now, right now, you can tell me, if I take your phone, I want you to know why you take your phone. And if you feel like and it wasn't right, bring your case. Tell me why you feel like I was like an injustice to take your phone. And then if you can't come up with it, I'm sorry. So I always give you, because back then, if you say, hey, you can't go play outside,
Be like,
and you
wow.
can't even say why, and you're just sitting there. But if I tell you can't go play outside because when you went outside, you was not supposed to go across the street. You was already across the street. So now if I tell you cannot go outside, you cannot say, but Dad, you can't say that because, you had a valid. So that's what, to me, that's the most valuable thing I have.
We had a rule of no electronics at the table when we were eating dinner. And the kids, you could see them, the phone would buzz and they're like fidgeting, just can't. Say, no electronics. But Dad, no electronics. The world is not going to end to get through dinner, and next thing you know, it wasn't that urgent. I said, but you got to decondition yourself, man. Now, if people have that easy access to you, then they control you. You have to control your own life. That was just using a phone to say, look, in your life, there's going to be noise that's coming at you that's going to want to control you. And I said, but if you don't know who you are and have your own boundaries, nobody's going to respect them.
Again, thank you so much for coming to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Man,
it
this
was
was
it was a great
This was
conversation.
an amazing conversation. That's exactly what I was about to say. And it was like basically reiterate everything he was going to say. Thank you for stopping by. It was an amazing conversation. And we had a chance to learn so much from you. And so hopefully the people who's going to be sitting at home watching or perhaps listening to this are going to get a chance to learn perhaps just as much, if not more. And once again, thank you. And sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's just like, I think that's the whole purpose of podcast, because usually people just see the mayor or just a KPLC, you see it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but podcast, you got the chance to sit down and you can't truly fake it for that long time. So people can see the true sense of who you are and what we can expect for the next 4 years and 5 years. And maybe like people be like, man, we want more of this, and then they keep voting for you. So and the platform is open for you every time you feel like, hey, I want to talk with the people, and so tell them know what's going on. I think anytime.
Okay, I appreciate that. And for your audience and you guys, just to let you know that the big thing that I do believe in government is transparency, just being open with everything. So if they go and look at the city's Facebook page or platforms, we have all the content, but every month I'm putting on from the mayor's desk where I'm telling everybody everything that we've been doing that month. So let people know so they'll know what's happening. If they have questions, I just want people to know that the government does work for you, and that just go take a look at it, because it's not just me talking into a camera. It actually has videos. Like we said, we're working on this street. It'll show you the street work being done.
So what's the city page name on Facebook and all those social media platforms so people can get access to them?
I think it's Lake Charles City Hall.
Okay.
Say City Hall. You'll have everything, and that tells you things like when they're having the for small business seminar, how to do business with the city, any type of preparedness, all those resources. We're trying to make that the one-stop shop. So it's not fluff and marketing. It's really just content that's showing you what's happening in the city, what you might be interested in attending and doing, and basically getting it straight from the mayor's mouth what we're doing in the city for the people.
All right.
And it's like, is it a mayor job? I don't know. Maybe like you work on that to have like bringing, I guess like artists or activities like to come and perform in lectures and stuff like that. I don't know if the city do that.
Yeah, I'm up and do a lot of that too. I mean, we got the group that's operating the event center. When I first got in office, I said, I'm looking at what you guys are doing. I said, there's nothing in there for me or people that I know of. I said, can you do something else? So in April, they got Cat Williams coming.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big one.
Like I say, look, and Cat Williams. There's gonna be people that never heard of Cat Williams that's gonna go see Cat Williams.
Yeah.
I say, you build a bridge, you got to know why you got to go cross it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There
Yeah,
you go.
that's
You
a
cross
good
the
one.
Cat Williams Bridge, right?
Okay, I mean that's good. Like that's good. The city need more of that. Like
Yes.
bringing
Oh yeah, for sure.
activities like that.
Well, you're gonna hear me talk a lot about this Lake City vibe,
Yeah.
I think Lake Charles has a certain flavor about it that it hasn't had a chance to really express itself, but you're gonna start seeing it. I mean, when we did the light up at the lake, I'm watching. There's a band called the Last Minute Big Band that was playing, and I'm looking. Okay, I'm going to get my truck. Next thing you know, they kick off with Earth, Wind and Fire's In the Stone, and man, I stopped and paused. And said, wait, that's my genre. I mean, if you haven't heard of In the Stone, it'll catch your attention. I went back and I'm jamming with these guys,
I mean, like another thing is it like 4th of July? I always feel like it's just the fireworks. It's nothing else is happening. Like no band, nothing. It's just like
Nobody's performing.
It's just like you come in and you're just watching the thing. And
they had bands, but this one was a rock band. I told them let's give. Remember I talked about the Neapolitan flavor?
Yeah.
Watch that. It's gonna be Red, White, Blue, and You. It's going to be the 250th anniversary of the country. So we're going to have all kind of stuff. So tell people, come out there. Like I said, I'm building bridges. But come out there and see where the bridge is and figure out if they want to cross it, because I think you've got good. I mean, we have this vibe in the city, from Zydeco to R&B to rap to country western to. I mean, some of those players at LSU told me they got Call in Baton Rouge on their playlist,
Yeah.
So we just have to expose all of us to all the things and let us pick and choose. Your soul is going to stir when you hit something. It ain't going to be based on what everybody else is telling you. You're going to know it when you see it. So I'm just going to expose it to everybody,
They say they're not gonna do anything for Christmas. What's the plan for Christmas?
We got to light up the lake. So if you haven't, go ride around there, man. I mean, they've got.
Oh yeah, I
got
went there. It
lights
was pretty
everywhere.
beautiful. Yeah.
Matter of fact, when we did this Saturday, we did the countdown. Not only did all the lights in the Civic Center, Event Center area light up, but all the people that live around the lake lit up their houses around the same time. It was pretty cool. Then we had this real good fireworks display, because a lot of people were traveling back home from the Thanksgiving holidays. So you had a lot of people pull off the interstate right at the beach just to watch the fireworks. So we got a lot of, there's a lot going on here, but I'm gonna make sure that it's out there so people can know. The last thing I want people to know says, "Oh man, I wish I'd have known. I'd have gone there."
Yeah. So I mean, if anybody watching and you feel like we didn't ask all the questions or you wanted to know, let us know in the comment. And next time when we have the mayor, and then we have ask all your questions so you can have the answers you need.
I'll be back and I'll bring some coffee, because we'll kick it up.
Yep. Anything else?
Yeah, that's it for me.
I appreciate y'all, man. I gotta tell you, man, but that you got me hiding that jacket.
Oh, that cold? Oh no, I'm
It's like it's cold in there.
I'm comfortable, man. I'm comfortable in this thing, man. I got up and I opened my phone. It said it was 37 degrees outside. I was like, oh no.
Man, he wear the jacket for all of us, man. I feel hot already.
It's a serious jacket, but it looked like it's hugging you and it's warm. I'm sitting there, and I'm getting kind of hot.
I'm so comfortable in this thing. Y'all just don't know. Man, I'm not even hot. I'm comfortable.
Look,
Are you gonna do your like, share, subscribe?
Oh. Follow, like, share. They got to decide to me. Hey,
Man, the man look at the man. The man look at the man.
I got a shorter fit. That's it.
Right there, yeah. Got that fit going on. Yeah, I got the right pants and shoes for that too.